A San Antonio woman on trial for murder says she lived in fear of the nephew she stabbed in the back in 2016.
What came out in the first day of trial was that there were some text messages that were sent. The defense is alleging that Mohammed had a prescription drug addiction and was a violent man.
More than a decade following a sexual assault scandal that rocked the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Boys Club agency remains plagued by sexual harassment. And 5 former cheerleaders sue the Houston Texans, alleging illegally low compensation and a hostile work environment.
The hours I put into appearances, keeping up with my fitness, practices, game days, taking away from my family and school was worth more than $7.25 an hour.
I'm Chance Dorlin with your Express Briefing for Monday, June 4th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. And get each day's top news and sports headlines delivered to your inbox at expressnews.com/newsletters. More than a decade after a sexual assault scandal that rocked the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the agency is still a boys' club, plagued by sexual harassment and a culture that makes it difficult for women to get promoted. Despite efforts to bring women into the ranks, lawsuits, state records, and more than a dozen current and former employees say female officers have to contend with harassment from coworkers, masturbating inmates, and fear of retaliation if they complain. The latest allegations follow last year's $250,000 settlement reached by the department in a lawsuit accusing a male lieutenant of raping an officer he supervised, a claim reminiscent of a former assistant who retired in 2004 amid criminal charges, and a high-dollar lawsuit by multiple women accusing him of sexual harassment and assault. While overall more than 44% of employees are female, the further up the ladder you move, the lower that percentage becomes. And along with that, a disparity in promotions corresponds to a disparity in pay, with women earning about $2,700 a year less than men. And while current and former employees report that many incidents may go unreported, from 2007 to 2017, there were more than 3,500 sexual harassment and gender discrimination complaints filed within the department. The son of a Palestinian-American woman on trial in the 2016 stabbing death of her allegedly abusive boyfriend, who was also her nephew-in-law, testified Friday that his mother was terrified the man would kill the entire family. San Antonio Express News courts reporter Elizabeth Zavala says text messages between the two will be key evidence as the trial moves forward.
Andira Abdel-Aziz. She is accused of stabbing her nephew, who bled to death in the driveway of her Far West Side home. They were related by marriage, and they had an ongoing sexual relationship that lasted for years until his death on August 9th, 2016. The victim in this case is a man named Mohammed Abdel-Aziz. He was 25 years old. He was recently graduated from law school, and what came out in court last week was that they had been having an ongoing relationship that no one in the family knew about. There are allegations of domestic abuse involving the two people, and the only thing that did not appear to come up in Andina's report to the police was that she was being beaten. So they asked the jury to find her guilty of murder.
Hear my full conversation with courts reporter Elizabeth Zavala on today's episode of The Docket, our weekly law and crime podcast, available for free download at expressnews.com/podcasts. And 5 former Houston Texans cheerleaders are suing the NFL franchise, alleging the team failed to compensate them as required by law and subjected them to unfair working conditions. Attorney Gloria Allred says she's representing the women whom she alleges were continually harassed and intimidated.
We have filed a lawsuit against the Houston Texans on behalf of 5 former Houston Texans cheerleaders who have courageously come forward to protest how they were treated by the Houston Texans. They were harassed, intimidated, and forced to live in fear that they could be cut from the team for the slightest infraction. They were told repeatedly that they were dispensable and disposable, and that the surest way to be fired was to speak out.
And that's your daily San Antonio Express News briefing for Monday, June 4th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. I'm Chance Dorland.